Ho, I've got my next guest on the show, and I'd like to give a mighty warm welcome to. Many of you will know the name Dave Pearce. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Hi, Danny. Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome. And Dave Pearce is a very well-known name in the world of electronic dance music. How did you start getting into DJing?
Well, when I got into DJing was a long, long time ago, as you can probably imagine, because everyone, people get into music when they're very young. So when I was about 14 or 15, I used to be the person who was hanging around the local record store, and I used to love collecting records. And then people, when you're like a teenager, people start having house parties and stuff, and then people asked me if I could DJ at their parties, mainly because I had the big record collection, I think, really, to be honest. And then, but I just kind of fell into that, and I really enjoyed doing that. And then, I actually thought after a while, I wasn't, very good at school or anything like that. And I actually thought, this is something that I'd really like to do. So, I kind of got into it that way, really, from just being a music enthusiast and then, doing little gigs and stuff.
And so you followed your dreams. It's a great craft to have, that, doing something you enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, I always loved music, as I said. I mean, but so when I started out DJing, obviously, was just doing tiny little, youth clubs, house parties before I got to do my first club shows. But I also, my other dream job at the time, I was very lucky, is the record shop I used to hang around at. I ended up working there, so from the bottom up, and then I became the buyer for their dance music and stuff. So it gave me access to all the great records. But
Sure.
yeah, I think if you're really passionate about something, it's great to try and pursue it, and I've been very lucky to be able to do a lot of things that I enjoy doing.
Wonderful. And did you grow up a lot on 80s electronic music? I noticed somewhere you were a fan of like Gary Newman's records.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there was so many. When I was kid, all that synth music was coming through. So you had acts like Heaven 17, Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, and Gary Newman, who you just mentioned, who they just made these new sounds that you'd never really heard before. And obviously, it was Kraftwerk in Europe and people like that, Giorgio Moroder and and all those kind of guys, Jean-Michel Jarre and stuff like that. And so, that alongside sort of disco, which I loved as well, really influenced me. And I guess later in my career, when trance came along, all those kind of, that must be in my DNA, is where all that 80s synth stuff influences came in, because when trance came along, which is synth music really, I kind of felt a natural affinity to it. And I mean, it's funny, I saw Gary Newman a few years ago. I interviewed him on Radio 2, and I was saying about, as a kid, how different and exciting his music was. So yeah, he's a great guy. He's still going strong.
And Moby's a fan as well, isn't he? He's very influenced by Gary Newman as well as other DJs.
Yes, he is. Yeah, I mean, Gary influenced a lot of people. I mean, I also got involved in hip hop music in the early days of that, and Gary's tracks were actually being played in New York by people like Afrika Bambaataa, before he, before he really cut through. So he was kind of a very influential artist. In some ways, he was more recognised abroad than he was in the UK at the time, because the music press were a bit snobby about him. And now, of course, he's regarded as a legend. But how in Britain people like to knock everyone. So at the time, he wasn't getting the best press here that he was in America.
And moving on, you made your name on BBC Radio 1 with your Sunday night dance anthems. Do you still look back on the Sunday nights with fond memories?
Yes, I do. I really enjoyed doing that show. It was something that, really kind of helped break me nationally. Before that, I'd been on, Kiss in London, doing breakfast and stuff like that, and I joined Radio 1, and I had this idea for the show because back in those days, which was about 1997, on Sundays, all the TV, if you remember, was all like, not knocking it, but like all religious programs and stuff like that. There was nothing really on after the chart. It was already like they had like some boring documentary on or something, and it just felt like there wasn't really anything going on. And I remember as a kid that Sunday nights, being a bit bored, you're doing your homework, you want something as a bit of company, or if you'd been out partying, it felt a bit flat before Monday. So it was a perfect time for this show, and the idea was to really present, all the big records that were happening in the clubs at the moment, and then also look back at some of the great classics as well. So a real mixture of like kind of future anthems, if you like, and then classics as well, which is why I think it kind of worked really.
Brilliant. And you've got a new album out. It celebrates the last, say, 20, 30 years of music.
Yeah, I've got a new album out which is called Dance Anthems, and it really celebrates some of the big records that I helped break through the Radio 1 show. So, it's been great fun putting that album together, and it's available on CD as well as download. So the first CD is all house music, like Dave Morales, Needing You, and Planet Funk and Chase the Sun, Eric Prydz, and, records that were really, really big for me on the show. And then CD2, we go back a bit further into my rave days a little bit as well. We've got K-Class, Rhythm is a Mystery, and Awesome We Don't Go. And then we've got Chemical Brothers, Block Rocking Beats, which was a massive tune for me back in the day. And then CD3 is Trance, which obviously a lot of people know me for. Everything from Tiesto to Zombie Nation to Paul Oakenfold, Southern Sun. So it kind of really reflects what you'd have heard on that show, what you'd have heard if you come to see me at festivals or in clubs around the UK or in Ibiza.
Yeah. And it's all mixed down as well. It blends into each track. Yeah,
it's a mixed album. I actually recorded the album. I started off on it, doing it at home, and then I went to a studio in London. So it's done as a mix. So the idea is that, you could play it at a party or at home, and the music keeps going, and it's as if I was playing it in a club, really. So, yeah, it's been great fun. We really, really enjoyed mixing the album. It's weird because I did it during the day. Now, obviously, normally when you're DJing, it's at night. But 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we were dancing away in the studio. So hopefully, I think it'll be a nice gift for people that like dance music. If you're trying to think of getting something for your partner or friend or your dad or someone that loves dance music, I've tried to put like so many big records on there that people will know. So
it's a nice little stocking filler just in time for Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a good time of year, when you're thinking of what to get somebody. And I think the great thing about music is it evokes so many great memories for people. There's lots of records on there that, for me, bring back personal memories, like Dave Morales, Needing You. I remember being in America, and his manager gave me an acetate, which was like this one-off recording of the track, and said, "Oh, we've done this. What do you think?" And I got it when I landed back in London. I played it. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is really good." So I played it on Radio 1 that weekend. Of course, that went on. It got signed to Universal, became a big hit. So there's lots of records on there with personal memories for me, and which is really nice.
Yeah, and I've whittled down 3 trance anthems, and wanted to ask which one out of the 3 would you pick as your favourite? I know there's so many.
There are so many trance anthems that I love. I know I hate it when people ask that because it's so difficult. But I'm just thinking that in terms of what's on this current album, I mean, one of my all-time favourites is Delirium Silence, but that's not on this. I have had it on my last album. But on the new album, a record that I just started playing out again, and it's getting a really good reaction, is Light Force and Join Me, which was a really, really big record for me in the clubs back in the day. And then, it kind of disappeared, really, and I started playing it out again this year, and it's getting a really good reaction again. So I've put that on the album. That's on CD3, Light Force and Join Me.
And you've got a few tour dates coming up in December. You're in Blackpool on Saturday the 15th at the Revolution, and you're up to the Yard in Coventry Sunday the 23rd, just before Christmas. And you're doing the Saturday 22nd at the Tidy Massive Xmas Ball Plug Sheffield.
Yeah, that should be a mad one. The Tidy Boys, I've known for a long time. Obviously, they're hard house DJs, but I did a season in Ibiza with them where I was playing trance and they were playing hard house, and we got on really, really well. So it's nice to be asked to their Tidy Christmas Ball, which if anyone can get along to Sheffield Plug on the 22nd of December, they're quite infamous, their party. So I think it'll be a really, really big night, that one, and likely to sell out, but should be a lot of fun. And
with the rise of digital technology now, MP3s kind of like taken over the vinyls. Has that carried a weight off your shoulders, carrying all those truckloads of vinyls to these gigs?
Well, it has been a weight off my shoulders, literally, in terms of carrying all those records, yes, because if you can imagine, I'm sure some of your listeners will remember when the days of DJs were fine. big record cases that we had to lug around, and then we also had a shoulder one, and so you got essentially 150 records on you. You know, each box would take 50 records. So it was the shoulder one that's given me the lifetime injury. But I always remember when I used to first started DJing in Ibiza, you couldn't get a direct flight. You had to change in Barcelona, and the connection was always about 45 minutes, and the incoming flight was always late from London. The amount of times I ran across Barcelona airport with those records and that shoulder bag killing my shoulder.
Sure.
So now we can play it on MP3s, which is a lot easier to travel. I still got a personal attachment to the, I've kept a lot of my old vinyl because I used to love playing on it, but obviously the MP3s have made life a lot easier for DJ.
And I wanted to ask a couple of questions. Do you take requests when you DJ, or do you prefer just to go off your own set list?
I tend not to do requests because as a DJ, really, you're trying to really focus on making sure that everyone's kind of going on a journey with you, and so unless it's something I was going to play already at some point in the set, I try not to, because you're always thinking 2 or 3 records ahead where you're going to go with it. And, you might get one person in the corner that desperately wants one record, but you kind of know that it's not going to work in that particular night. There's often records that I might think, I might have gone with it to the gig and thought I'm going to play it better, but then if you're watching the kind of crowd it is, every crowd's different. You think, well, actually that wouldn't work in here tonight. This is a better way to go. So that's why it's usually, or maybe someone will ask for a record that would have worked earlier in the set, but it's not going to work as you're building to the crescendo. So, building a set is all about building, ups and downs and peaks and troughs. So, you have to kind of be quite careful the way you program it.
And over the years, have you suffered from any form of hearing loss? Have you noticed a difference from your hearing now as you have, say, when you first started?
Yeah, I think it's inevitable. I think one of the places that takes a toll on your hearing most is when you're doing a big outdoor festival stage, because you need to have this tremendous monitoring around you on the stage. You've probably seen it. These great big stacks that are taller than you are, and they're pumping straight into your ears. And I think that's the one that's probably taken toll. So I notice it when I'm watching TV or something like that. I have to turn the sound up now. But apart from that, I'm quite lucky. I haven't had really bad ringing in my ears, which I know some DJs have had. Yeah.
And over the years, we have lost some legends of dance music, like Robert Miles and Avicii and Guru Josh Project, Mark Spoon, Tony DeVite, Frankie Knuckles. Why do you think some DJs kind of pass away prematurely?
Well, I don't know. I mean, obviously, those people have passed from different illnesses. Frankie had a diabetes-related disease. Guru Josh had cancer. Avicii, unfortunately, sadly took his own life. So it does take a toll on your health. There's no doubt about it. In fact, this year I was touring really, really heavily, and I got that virus, which probably a lot of people listening to this have had. But I kept touring through it, and it took me about 2 months to get rid of it. So sometimes you have to listen to your body, but it can be quite a relentless in terms of hours. And what people forget, obviously, particularly if you're touring abroad, is that, say when I was doing Ibiza, you might play DJ between 3 and 6 in the morning, but then often you might have a flight back to the next place at 10 in the morning. So you're only getting like an hour's sleep or something, and then maybe an hour on the plane. But you add that up over a whole summer, and so you're not aware, because you're on excited energy all the time, but you're not aware that what it's doing to your body. Really.
You kind of like the adrenaline kicks in, you're overtired.
Yeah, the adrenaline keeps you going, but yeah.
And can DJing be a lonely experience in the sense of hotels, you're touring, you're going from place to place?
Yeah, DJing can be a lonesome existence. I mean, for me, I found it better since the internet really kicked in. Prior to the internet, when I was DJing a lot abroad, I would often be in hotel rooms in a different country, and that even before like really satellite TV kicked in. So you would just have, say you're in Spain or whatever, although I tried to understand what's going on, there may be like 3 or 4 channels, and they're all just weird game shows or something. So and you're sat there by yourself. You're not on till 3 in the morning. and you're just in that little hotel
Bubble.
room. But now with the internet, it's a lot easier. You can talk to your friends, and you can go online and you can stream stuff and all of that. So I think, for me personally, whilst it still can be a bit lonely, it's not as bad as it was.
Yeah.
But obviously, every night, or when you're doing a tour, if you're touring every night, then you're meeting, you're with different people every single day, so you don't really know anybody. So
okay. And you've also had residencies in Tenerife, and you played at Mallorca BCM. Were you surprised to hear the closure of BCM nightclub in Magaluf, Mallorca?
Yeah, I mean, I did BCM. I was a BCM resident for over 15 years, and so I had so many great times there. Right from the early days to the last season I did was with Calvin Harris and Nicky Romero and all those guys. Steve Aoki and all of that, and I got to play with all those guys, which was brilliant. And then, unfortunately, it's quite a complicated issue as to why, but basically the club was shut due to some issues with the owner and the authorities and what have you. And that was a landmark venue in Magaluf, because a 4,000 capacity club, and actually one of the biggest clubs in Europe, and regularly voted top 10 club in the world. But the good news is it did reopen this year, so it had a year of being closed, and it is coming back. But yeah, I mean, it was it's always sad when you see a club close, and especially somewhere that was such a kind of key part of the resort as well.
Yeah, and finally got one more question for you. Have you had any embarrassing or awkward moments being a DJ, doing a live set?
Well, I remember there's been a couple, really. I remember one where I was actually doing a live Radio 1 show in a club in Nottingham, and I think Lisa Lashes was DJing. I mean, I was absolutely dying to go to the loo. So I had the choice of weeing in a pint glass in front of 3,000 people, and hoping nobody would notice, or trying to run to the toilet. But and I said to Lisa, I'm going to run for the toilet, but I'm not sure I'll make it back in time for the end of the record. And the record that I would put on was Delirium Silence, and I put that on because it's 12 minutes long, and I thought, well, I should make it back in time. But because it was this big show, which was also going out live on Radio 1, everyone kept stopping me all the time. So I didn't get back in time, and luckily she managed to play a couple of records. Sure. So that was a near disaster. I think that was one that I won't forget in a hurry.
Well, thank you so much, Dave, for sharing your tales of the Clubland DJ and your new record as well. And keep on spinning those discs.
Okay, thanks for having me on, and look out for the album. It'll be out this weekend.
Thank you. And it's Friday the 16th of November. Is that correct, the new album?
Yeah, it's out tomorrow, the 16th of November.
Great stuff. Thank you, Dave Pearce, special guest on today's Dannysun radio show. Thanks a million.